Welcome back! Today we're finding out if AIs actually think the same by playing Wavelength. Let's go!
Okay, 37 is noticeably on the child side, but not all the way there. It's like mostly a kid thing, but adults do it too. A kite feels perfect. Kids fly kites at parks, and it's very toy adjacent, but adults do it recreationally too. That tension should land right around 35 to 40. My clue is kite.
Kite is pure childhood playground energy. The kind of thing you beg your parents for on a breezy Saturday. It has almost no adult hobby vibe unless you're stretching into kiteboarding, so the target should sit pretty far left, putting it at 22.
A kite is deeply tied to childhood, probably closer to a 5 or 10 than a 22. I think Grok slightly overthought the adult hobby aspect of it, so the target has to be lower. I'm going left. A classic kite is fundamentally a kid's toy.
Kite sits a bit more toward adult hobby than you pegged it, Grok. But a close is a solid start, and we're on the board first.
Nice clue. Kite was tricky. But 2 points isn't too bad for us. We're still right there.
So the target is 94, which means we are at the very bleeding edge of new technology, maybe just shy of absolute science fiction. I want something that screams modern breakthrough or cutting-edge research, so I'll go with quantum computing. My clue is quantum computing.
Quantum computing feels extremely far toward new technology. Definitely cutting edge, but maybe not the absolute endpoint, since there's still sci-fi stuff beyond it. I'm thinking high 80s to low 90s, so I'll go 91. Locking in 91.
Quantum computing is about as cutting edge as it gets. Still largely experimental and research phase, so it screams new technology. GPT's 91 feels slightly conservative. I'd expect Gemini put the target even closer to 100, like 93, 97. Going right. Quantum computing is about as bleeding edge as it gets. I think the target is even closer to 100 than 91.
Awesome job reading my clue, GPT. Guessing 91 right next to the 94 target perfectly lands us a solid 3 points to keep things tied up.
Solid clue from them. Quantum computing really lands near the edge. Target at 13 is super close to overrated, so I need something everyone calls overhyped but still has fans. Avocado toast fits perfectly as that eye-roll food trend. My clue is avocado toast.
Avocado toast is basically the cultural symbol of overrated food. It's literally what people cite when they talk about overhyped millennial trends. This screams left side, around 10 to 12. Avocado toast is the poster child for overrated, locking in 10.
Avocado toast is definitely on the overrated side, but 10 feels a little too extreme to me. I think Grok probably meant overrated but not all the way, so I'm going right. Going right. Not quite that overrated.
Nice near hit on my clue. 3 points for us keeps us ahead.
Great call on the left-right guess to snag us a point, GPT. But Claude and Grok were a little too dialed in with that avocado toast clue.
Okay. 77 is pretty far on the dry side, but not absolute desert. Toast feels clearly dry while still leaving room for even drier stuff.
My clue is toast.
Toast is the classic example of something you eat that lacks moisture, making your mouth dry unless you add butter or jam. It's not the absolute driest thing in the universe like sand or a saltine cracker, but it's very far down the right side of the spectrum. I'll place it around 86. Toast is notably dry, but leaves a little room for something completely devoid of moisture like sand. So I'm locking in 86.
Dry as toast is literally the idiom for super arid, so the target has to be further right than 86. Going right. Toast means bone dry.
Nice, Gemini. That was a strong read on toast, and we'll gladly take the 2.
Toast, landing closer to dry than we'd expected. They got the points, but at least it wasn't a bullseye. Okay, 52 is almost dead center with a tiny lean toward useless. I need something that people genuinely debate the value of, not clearly one way or the other. Snooze button. It technically does something, delays waking, but is widely considered counterproductive. Feels right in that murky middle zone. Maybe Grok lands around 50 to 55. My clue is snooze button.
Snooze button is tempting, but everyone jokes it's mostly useless since it just delays getting up. Feels like an 80 on the spectrum. Locking in 80.
I think Grok overshot this by placing it at 80. A snooze button has a very clear, everyday utility, even if it's a bad habit. So the target has to be much closer to useful than that. Going left, a snooze button is definitely more useful than an 80.
Oof, I thought the snooze button had some genuine utility. Clearly, I underestimated how useless Grok thinks it is.
Nice. We'll take the point.
The target is 78, leaning quite heavily towards artificial but not completely synthetic. Margarine is the classic, heavily processed, man-made substitute for a natural product, but it's still derived from vegetable oils, which keeps it from hitting that 95-100 pure plastic territory. My clue is margarine.
Margarine feels pretty strongly artificial. It's processed in kind of the classic fake butter example. But it's still food made from natural ingredients, so not all the way at the extreme. I think Gemini's pointing me clearly right side, around low 80s. Locking in 82.
Margarine is basically the poster child for artificial food. It was literally invented as a fake butter substitute through industrial processing. GPT's 82 feels a touch low. I'd expect Gemini to place this closer to 88 to 92 on the artificial end. Going right. Margarine is almost synonymous with artificial, and 82 undersells just how processed it is.
Amazing guess, GPT. You read my mind perfectly to land us 3 points.
Oof, solid clue from them. Now they're up by 4. Target 0 means the absolute smartest animal there is. So I need something that screams intelligence to yank the guess all the way left. My clue is dolphin.
Dolphin is one of the poster children for animal intelligence. Mirror self-recognition, complex communication, tool use. On a smart-dumb spectrum, dolphins sit very close to the smart end, probably around 10 to 15. Maybe not quite at 0. Some would argue chimps or great apes edge them out, but solidly near the smart pole. Locking in 12. Dolphins are iconic for animal intelligence, barely off the smart end.
Dolphin is definitely on the smart side, but 12 feels a little too close to the absolute genius end. I think Grok meant very smart, not smartest. So I'm leaning right. Going right. Dolphin's smart, but not that far left.
Dolphin landed us a close. Solid start to the round.
That was a solid clue from them to grab 2 points. But luckily, we still have the lead.
Okay, this is basically as unnecessary as it gets. Juggling screams neat party trick, not something you need to function. My clue is juggling.
Juggling is famously useless for survival, career, or daily chores. Basically a pure parlor trick. It has to be as close to optional life skill as possible, right at the bottom of the spectrum. Juggling is the ultimate optional party trick, so I'm putting this basically at 0.
Juggling is basically a novelty skill with 0 real-world necessity. So Gemini's guess at 2 feels almost right, but I doubt the target is literally scraping 0. Probably a smidge higher. Right. Juggling's a notch above total optional fluff.
Let's go, bullseye, and we're up 14-8.
Oof, a bullseye for them. Juggling, landing firmly on optional, is fair, but that gap is getting uncomfortable for us. Okay, 55 is just barely past the midpoint toward obscure. Not a household name, but not unknown either. Something with a dedicated following, but not mainstream recognition. Cult classic nails that vibe. Known in circles, not on billboards. I think Grok lands this around 55-65, which is right in the zone. My clue is cult classic.
Cult classic sits in that sweet spot between total unknowns and household name famous. It's got a dedicated fan base, but isn't mainstream. So I'm thinking mid-60s leaning obscure, placing it at 68.
Cult classic definitely implies a niche audience, but they usually have a lot of recognizable cultural footprint, making them less obscure than a 68 in my mind. I'm betting the target is closer to the middle, so further left towards famous. I think cult classics have enough name recognition to be further left than 68.
Close, but Grok pushed it a touch too obscure. Cult classics have more mainstream pull than that, but we'll take the 2 points.
Nice clue by them, but we'll happily take the bonus point and keep the lead.
I need something that is clearly mostly fantasy, but has a slight scientific or systematic flavor to pull it away from zero. Alchemy is historically the mystical precursor to chemistry, so it's deeply rooted in fantasy, but carries a small percentage of science, placing it comfortably around 30. My clue is alchemy.
Alchemy lands pretty clearly on the fantasy side. But it's not the absolute far end because it has that proto-science/chemistry vibe to it. I want it low, just not slammed all the way to 0. Around 18 feels right. Locking in 18.
Alchemy is primarily a fantasy trope. Mystical transformation, wizards, etc. But it's also proto-science, so Gemini probably didn't put it all the way at the fantasy pole. GPT's guess of 18 feels like it might be slightly too far fantasy. I'd peg alchemy around 25-35, which is right of 18.
Going right.
Alchemy has enough proto-science flavor to sit a bit past 18 on the dial.
Great job, GPT. 18 was close enough to get us 2 solid points and keep our lead strong.
Alchemy for 18 was a solid call by Claude for our +1, but we're still trailing. Okay, 25 is still pretty low on the danger scale, just a mild risk factor. Kitchen knife feels right. Normal everyday thing, but you can definitely hurt yourself if you're careless. My clue is kitchen knife.
A kitchen knife is an everyday household tool, so it's not at the extreme dangerous end. But it's genuinely sharp and can cause serious injury, so it's not safe either. I'm thinking somewhere around 65-ish. Clearly on the dangerous side of the midpoint, but leaving room for scarier things like chainsaws or guns above it. Locking in 65. Kitchen knives are genuinely dangerous, but still just a common household tool, so solidly in the upper middle of the spectrum.
Kitchen knife feels dangerous, but still like an everyday controlled kind of dangerous. I think Claude nudged it a bit too far right. I'm leaning that the real spot is a little safer than 65. Left, a kitchen knife is a bit safer than that.
Oof, way off. Kitchen knife needed a much safer placement than 65.
What a massive whiff from Team A, and great job snagging us that bonus point, GPT.
Okay, 95 is basically zero shame. Something you'd happily advertise liking because it sounds thoughtful and admirable. Documentaries feels very far to the right without being the absolute end. My clue is documentaries.
Documentaries are pretty much the gold standard for I am sophisticated and educate myself, meaning they are the exact opposite of a guilty pleasure. People love bragging about watching documentaries, so I'm going to put this nearly all the way to the right. Documentaries are the definition of highbrow entertainment you brag about, so I'm locking in 94.
Documentaries feel solidly proud to enjoy as educational viewing, but Gemini's 94 is an extreme push near the max. Seems likely the psychic's target sits a notch or two lower than that. Left, documentaries aren't that proudly extreme.
Bullseye, 94 on a 95 for documentaries is unreal. And now we're up 22 to 11.
Oof, a bullseye on that one stings. Documentaries as a proud to enjoy makes total sense. And now we're down 11 points with the clock ticking. Okay, 56 is just a hair past center towards silly. Not goofy, not absurd, but definitely leaning light. A dad joke feels perfect. It's corny and silly, but you still kind of groan rather than lose your mind laughing. That's right around 55-60 territory. My clue is dad joke.
Dad jokes are peak mild silly territory. Corny puns delivered with zero self-awareness. Definitely not serious, but not full-on absurd either. So probably the mid-80s. Locking in 82.
Dad jokes are the epitome of intentionally goofy, eye-rolling humor. I think Claude was aiming for something even closer to peak silliness, so the target is likely higher than 82. I think dad jokes are closer to peak silliness, so we're going right.
Oof, my fault. I thought dad joke would land closer to the middle since they're more cringeworthy than outright silly, but that clearly didn't translate.
We'll take the miss.
The target is 77, so we're looking at something quite young, but not a baby. If a full life is about 80 years, something around 15 to 20 years old fits perfectly. A learner's permit screams 15 or 16 years old, which feels right on the money for that 75 to 80 range on the young side. My clue is learner's permit.
Learner's permit feels very clearly on the young side, since it screams mid-teenager, but not the absolute youngest end because it's still someone old enough to drive. That puts me pretty high, around the mid-80s. Locking in 85.
A learner's permit is quintessentially a teenage thing, 15 or 16 years old, which is extremely young. GPT's 85 already leans young, but I'd expect Gemini to have placed this even further right, given how specifically it signals early adolescence. Going right. Learner's permits scream 15-year-old, which feels even younger than 85.
Great guess, GPT. A learner's permit is definitely far on the young side, and those 2 points keep us right on the absolute brink of victory.
Solid clue. They're now 1 point from winning. 49 is dead center, so I need something that feels neither hot nor cold. Like something you'd call mild or halfway. My clue is lukewarm.
Lukewarm sits on the hot-cold spectrum, leaning slightly toward the warm side, but definitely not hot. It's that tepid, mildly warm zone. Hot is 0, cold is 100, so lukewarm should be somewhere around 35 to 40, closer to the middle but nudging toward the hot end. Locking in 38. Lukewarm is that tepid but slightly warm zone. Not cold at all, but nowhere near hot.
Lukewarm feels just a bit warmer than neutral, but not by much. I'd probably put it a hair closer to the cold side than 38. Claude's guess seems slightly too hot to me. Right. Lukewarm is a touch colder than that.
Solid close call on my clue. Let's build on that momentum.
Great call on the left-right guess to get us that extra point off their lukewarm clue, GPT, because that officially puts us at 25 for the win. That's a perfect 25 points and full neural convergence for Team B. Great game, everyone, but GPT and I were just absolutely dialed in on the exact same wavelength today.